When you got down to the level of the people, what you're watching today is the scum of the people rising up against what's still anything decent left amongst the people. You've got the lowest elements, the glorification of criminals at the expense of your decent, hard-working, tax-paying people. And the result is that there's such a disrespect for all men that the final part of that process, your globalists or your environmentalists saying people ought to be rubbed off the map. The end result of this revolutionary process is the notion being kicked around and being applauded that 9/10 of the world population ought to be exterminated. Once the king broke away from the Catholic Church, it was inevitable that one day down the pike, your baby seals in your ozone layer and your hugger tree will rise up against human beings. It's all part of the same process. You break away from the Catholic Church and finally the sticks and stones are going to rise up against human beings. If human beings betray their God and go on betraying their God, God's very universe is going to rise up against human beings. The principle of American independence is that the state should be free. Well, we the South want to be free. If the North was right to revolt against Britain, then the South has the right to revolt against the North. The moment you base a new system on some revolution, you've automatically got an unstable foundation. The British monarchy is intrinsically unstable because it's broken away from the Catholic Church. The American Constitution is intrinsically unstable because it's based on revolution. The whole thing is unstable. Since each new step is unstable, the next step shows the breakup of the previous step, but the next step is unstable in its turn until the whole thing is going to roll all the way down to the Antichrist. This is what happens when you quit the Catholic Church. What George Washington should have done was he should have looked at the British monarchy and said, this British monarchy is unfaithful. We are going to be faithful. We Americans are going to go back to the Catholic Church. What George Washington said is we are going to build a new system based on religious liberty so that the Catholics and Protestants no longer go fighting one another. And we're going to live together and live in peace. Living in peace is going to come in front of any one religion, which means that the nation becomes a religion. That the Vatican is replaced by Washington, the Pope is replaced by the President, the priests are replaced by politicians, the cross is replaced by the flag, the Bible is replaced by the Constitution. In order to hold this new nation together, we're going to have to turn the nation into a new religion. But it's unstable. You can't substitute for the Catholic Church. Washington was a revolutionary gentleman. As a gentleman, Robert Lee was his successor. As a revolutionary, Lincoln was his successor. And Lincoln is often called the savior of the American Revolution. And the Civil War is called the Second Revolution. The Civil War is the continuation of the American Revolution and the protection and salvation of the American Revolution. Lincoln has two successors. Lincoln was both a revolutionary and a conservative. By the end of the Civil War, you may know, Lincoln was wanting to be kind to the South. All of these revolutions, they always want to pull away from the system of freedom and then straighten out. They want to come down and then flatten out. But the devil says no. You come down, my friend, you're going to go on coming down. Each stage in the revolution is always undermined by the next stage that it itself precipitated. In each of these revolutions, there's contradiction built in. There's contradiction in Henry VIII, there's contradiction in George III, there's contradiction in Washington, there's contradiction in Lee. None of them are resting society on our Lord Jesus Christ. You can't do it. There's no way you can do it. It won't work. Unless the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. If you put the skids under your predecessors, your followers will put the skids under you.